at the behest of the state, and they are seeking to invite you to admit a charge and invite him to take a plea on those charges. Your Honor, you are a court of law, a court that respects the authority of its own processes and the authority and orders of other courts within the Republic of Kenya. The applicants are inviting Your Honor to consider an order issued by Justice Bahati on the 9th of August 2024, which order is in specific terms. Order 2 speaks to an order directing the state, including IG, DCI, DPP, their officers, their servants, their agents, from arresting Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi, from detaining Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi. In order 3, the learned judge specifically says, if by any chance you are detaining, you have arrested, you have in your custody Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi, you must set him free forthwith. Brought before you is a person who has been arrested, who has been detained in violation of those orders. They've done everything to ignore Justice Bahati and his orders. That is contempt of court. If they had any doubt as to the tenor, the meaning, or the substance of the orders issued by the High Court, nothing could have stopped them from going before that court to seek clarification or interpretation, to be told what the judge meant. What they did when Mr. Wanjigi appeared before the DCI in honor of summons was to throw Justice Bahati's orders out the window. They threw them out of the window and they said, you are now our prisoner. We will arrest you, we will detain you, and we will hold you. No less than 100 police officers involved in the high drama. Why are we here? Why are we here then? If the orders given by the court could be thrown out the window in my presence as an officer of the court, why are we here? Are we going to the state of the jungle? So, Your Honor, it is important that we bring every player before you, Your Honor, to order before we make even a single step in these proceedings. Everybody must accept and admit that we will submit to the authority of the courts and their orders whenever, wherever they are given, whether we agree with them or not. They cannot cherry pick. That for purpose of registering a charge against Mr. Wanjigi, we don't care about Justice Bahati's orders. And they want this court to now admit them. They want this court to even give them audience. They want this court to excuse their blatant breach of the orders of Justice Bahati. And as we speak, Your Honor, we have since filed a contempt of court application before the High Court against the acting IG and the Director of Criminal Prosecutions and Mr. Michael Sang, who was in charge of the operation.
Against?
We filed a contempt of court application before the Acting Inspector General of Police, the Director of Criminal Investigations, Mr. Min, and Mr. Michael Sang, who was in charge of the operations, and he is in court as we speak. He has brought to court his badge of honor as a disobeyer of court orders. He's brought it to court to show the court that orders don't matter. And Your Honor, when you retire to look at the orders we've shared with the court, it is in plain English. It is in plain English. They are told not to arrest, and if they've arrested, they've told to release forthwith. They chose not to. And Your Honor, reject the invitation to entertain a process that is already fraught with unconstitutionality from the beginning. The foundation of these charges is disobedience of court orders. Allow the High Court to deal with those questions. Then we'll come back before you once directions are given. No prejudice shall be suffered by the state or any party. No prejudice. Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi is a non-citizen of this republic. His residence is known, has been raided more than 2 times. It's the raiding spot for the respondents when they are bored. So they can always find him. The 4 weeks deferment will not prejudice anybody whatsoever, but it will uphold our Constitution and our commitment to the rule of law. The second point, as I conclude, Your Honor, why we urge for deferment of the plea. The issue of ownership of firearms by Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi was litigated before the High Court in petition 520 of 2017. And the court ordered the respondents.
Petition number?
520 of 2017. The court ordered the respondents to give him back his firearms. Your Honor, 3 years after the orders of the court, in fact 5 years, the orders were issued in 2019, but until 2023 were those orders complied with.
The orders were issued?
Were issued on the 25th of June 2019. They were complied with sometimes in the year 2023. And just to create a
in the year
2023.
every app on my phone for this.
And just to create a completeness of that long journey, it was 5 years. The High Court, in recognition of the authority of its processes and its orders, actually committed the former Director of Criminal Investigations, Mr. George Kinoti, to civil jail for 4 months for refusing to comply with these orders. So the respondents have a history of ignoring court orders when it comes to Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi. He was convicted and sentenced. He is not in prison just because of a stay order that he got from the Court of Appeal. Otherwise, he is a convict waiting to serve his term. Out of 520, petition 520. The court also, Your Honor, in JR number 46 of 2018, which looked into the propriety of Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi to hold a firearms certificate. In a decree issued on the 23rd of January 2019, the court quashed the Firearms Licensing Board's decision to revoke the firearm certificate number 9522 issued to Jimmy Wanjigi and reinstated it.
Number?
9522. So the court has reinstated his firearm certificate, revoking, quashing an attempt by the Firearms Licensing Board to revoke it. Quashed, told, finished. Then Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi starts following up with the DCI to get back the firearms. Following up with the Firearms Licensing Board to get the licenses. In contempt of the court order in JR number 46, the Firearms Licensing Board is saying, who are you, High Court? You've quashed that letter. We'll backdate another letter and revoke the same certificate. You think you know us? You don't know us. We'll show you who we are. You finish with the court, we'll start afresh. That's what they're doing to you. Contempt of courts.
Just repeat that.
They decide to ignore the court orders issued and decide that you've revoked our letter you've quashed our letter revoking Jimmy's certificate. Fine. We will revoke it again. And they proceed to revoke it again. In contempt of court, they are telling the court, you think you know us. We have many tricks up our sleeves. You revoke this one, we issue another letter. We inform even verbally that we've revoked again. That's contempt of court. And Your Honor, for good measure, we filed an application for contempt of court in JR number 46 against the chairman and the members of the Firearms Licensing Board. They are treating these courts with disdain.
What's their number?
46 of 2018. We filed an application for contempt this morning. And that board is the complainant in the proposed charges. That board that participated in the High Court proceedings, JR 46, we are the respondents, they have now become the complainant and are asking the court to prosecute Mr. Wanjigi. How ridiculous. They have not complied fully with the orders issued by the court. Now they are seeking to revoke again the license, the certificate, and saying now the guns that we had licensed on your certificate, you are holding them illegally. You should take plea for possession of firearms. And as my senior says, no notice, no invitation, no meeting. Those are questions we want the High Court to address. Let the High Court assert itself on if it gives an order, a person can decide to be clever by a half, by doing something to countermand those orders, not to facilitate the enjoyment of the orders. That is what we are going to invite you to, by looking into the conduct of the complainant here, who was the respondent in JR 46. That is the injustice being meted against Mr. We plead with you, don't allow this court to be dragged into the act of disobedience, disregard, dishonor, the rupture of our constitution that the respondents do every day. That is their stock in trade. To them, court orders are inconveniences to be obeyed, to be complied with, as and when the thing fits their daily bread or their daily need. Not to put order in the society and to anchor the rule of law as part of our democracy. This court is a citadel of justice, and Lady Justice does not entertain judicial malingerers. We have judicial malingerers before this court. They need to be taken to the appropriate forum to be punished. Punished to assert the authority of the court. And it becomes a lesson going forward, that when a court speaks, we all put our fingers down and listen and bow in honor. That is the invitation. The final point is in regard to the second accused, the second proposed accused person. Mr. Kibe, who as a 6th year they've committed the worst acts of torture that can only be done in a police station. It's unbelievable. He has a broken rib. He's before you. He has a broken rib. Split lip. His crime? To be Jimmy Wanjigi's aide. They almost attacked, and somebody was intentionally, overnight, targeting the most private parts of his body to squeeze and to torture. In regard to Mr. Kibe, he is in excruciating pain, and the court can take note of that. Should order that he should be taken to hospital. He is not being seen by any medic. The people who tortured him are in court. His offense? To be Jimmy's aide. That's the offense. So when Jimmy suffers, his aide must suffer. At this rate, even myself, as his lawyer, I may just be dragged into it. So the court should take notice. In regard to Mr. Kibe, please order that he goes for treatment before he can even seek to participate in any proceedings involving. I'll leave it at that.